Thanks very much, Count Corl. I just want to congratulate and wish Deputy Curran well on her new role. And I think this motion is a welcome opportunity to discuss the importance of early learning and childcare. And I've no doubt that deputies from all sides of this House will agree on the value of childcare and early learning in the lives of children, in the lives of their parents, and across society more broadly. And over the last 4 years, I've spoken to so many parents who've told me about the central role that early years professionals play in their lives and in their children's lives, the deep trust they place in these women and men to take care of their children, and the gratitude that they have to them for so doing. It's in early learning, it's in early year settings where children get their first experience of formal education, carefully guided by early years professionals who demonstrate such passion and such dedication to their work. Affordable, accessible, early and high-quality childcare is ultimately a marker for the kind of country that we want Ireland to be, one that values children, values the people who care for children, supports parents in those early years, and allows parents to return to work as they wish to do so. Unfortunately, for many years, the Irish state didn't understand nor provide for early learning and childcare as a public good. From being at the bottom of the European pack, we've had to make huge strides to implement the kind of service that every child in Ireland deserves, so they can have what families in many other countries have enjoyed for decades. And that's why under this government, we've seen the most extensive programme of reform ever undertaken in the area of early learning and childcare. It's under this government that the state has, for the first time, recognised childcare as a public good, one that it demands more investment, one that demands more involvement by the state, and a close working partnership with providers, with new responsibilities on both sides. And while there's still work to do, my record on childcare is clear. Over the last 4 years, investment in childcare has more than doubled, from €638 million to €1.2 billion this year, and that's a figure I intend to grow in this year's budget. In the last 2 years, we've cut fees by half on foot of the extra investment I've placed in the National Childcare Scheme. Pay for staff has increased thanks to a first ever sector pay agreement backed by government funding. The number of service closures is at the lowest it has been for 5 years. The number of enrolments, place hours, staff has all increased over the last 5 years. Fundamentally, we have more staff, we have better pay, delivering more childcare at lower costs. And I welcome in Sinn Féin's document that they do recognise some of these, particularly around core funding. But I have to say, I think their policy betrays a lack of ambition. The reality is that the Sinn Féin plan offers no vision for the delivery of early learning and childcare as a public good. It makes no reference to a public model for the future delivery of early learning and childcare. It relies on the purely privatised delivery model funded largely by the taxpayer. And rather than offering that vision of how the state can continue to build on the reforms, on the investment, on the direction that's been undertaken over the last 4 years, it reverts to the reliance on the private market. And I believe children and I believe parents in this country deserve better, because it is only the state that can guarantee access to the 2 years of the ECCE scheme. It is only the state that can bring down costs for parents, and it is only the state that can ensure our early years professionals' pay continues to rise to recognise the incredible work that they do. And that's what I've worked hard over the last years to do, to increase the state's role in the provision of early learning and childcare. And I've also placed on record my view that it cannot be left entirely to the market, and that the next steps are for the state to become a direct provider of early learning and childcare in areas of high need, in areas where we don't have enough spaces right now. Early learning and childcare is not as simple as a catchy headline. The combined challenges of staff pay and conditions, capacity, accessibility, service sustainability have to be addressed. I'd just like to briefly set out some of the work that I've done to address these areas. And at the centre of the reforms I've brought in is core funding. It was introduced in 2021 and for the first time brought the state into a formal partnership with childcare providers. It provided a massive injection of new funding, €259 million in year one, €287 million in year two, and €331 million this year. New funding that has gone directly to services. And as services came into contract with the state, the funding has provided the bedrock for the introduction of a new fee management system, of the fee freezes Deputy Donnelly was wishing had been introduced, that has stabilised fees during a cost of living crisis. It introduced a requirement of services to offer the NCS subsidy to all eligible families, and that's led to a 22% increase in the number of services offering the NCS. It supported the introduction of 2 employment regulation orders for the early years sector in September 22 and June 24, providing for the first time sector-wide minimum rates of pay for early years educators. And it's introduced targeted measures for the smallest services, which I know are valued by so many parents around this country. A flat rate fee of €5,000 for sessional-only services, a base rate of €14,000 for small services. And it is important to say that core funding is working. In year one, 95% of services signed up to it. Last year it was 94%. Right now we're on track for over 90% sign up this year. It is keeping services going. The number of new service openings is at a 5-year high for year to date. The number of service closings is at a 5-year low. And figures are often trotted out about service opening and closing in this country, but it's important to restate that. The number of new services opening is at a 5-year high. The number of services closing is at a 5-year low. Core funding, by introducing that freeze on fees, allows the full benefit of the National Childcare Scheme to be felt. And we've grown that universal subsidy. It was 50% per hour in 2022. It's now €2.14. And as a result of this, there has been a 97% increase in the take-up of the NCS. So in 2022, 99,000 children got a benefit from the NCS. This year, it's 195,000. And I know that the cost of childcare, while it's reducing, accessibility remains an issue for many parents around this country. And we want to ensure that every child, no matter what their background, is able to enjoy the benefits of early learning and childcare. And that's why we introduced Equal Start, our DESH model for early years, to support access to early learning and childcare for children and their families who are experiencing disadvantage. And yesterday, I had the privilege of visiting Corduff Childcare Service in my Dublin West constituency. It's one of 750 services that will support targeted funding under Equal Start. And the manager and I, Nolene, we were talking in this service, and she told me what Equal Start would mean to her service in terms of the ability to employ additional staff. And this month, again through extra investment, the government expanded the AIM scheme beyond the ECCE programme, and now ECC-age children are able to enjoy AIM hours outside the ECCE programme hours, both in term and outside of the term as well. We recognise that capacity remains an issue. It remains a struggle for parents in many parts of this country. We've set up a supply management unit in our department. It's putting in place a forward planning model which will allow us to identify the number of early learning and childcare places across the country, whether or not those places are occupied, and how that aligns with the number of children in the relevant age cohorts in that particular area. Next year, €25 million will be available in capital funding so services can expand and new services can be set up. And just this morning, I briefed the Cabinet on my actions to open up the NCS, the National Childcare Scheme, to parents who use childminding services. Ceann Comhairle, I think all of us in this House share in our determination that the state supports every single child during that critical first 5 years in a way that gives them the very best start in life. It is the most important investment that our state can make. And from the unprecedented reforms to childcare in both universal and targeted supports, to expanding parental choice through support for childminding, introducing flexible working for care purposes, the expansion of paid parents' leave from 2 weeks to 9 weeks per year per parent. I believe the work that I've done as a minister has moved the dial on our state's support to our youngest. And crucially, these changes have set us on a path with a clear vision, accessible, low-cost, high-quality early learning and care as a right, as a public good. And the next steps that I believe we need to take: creating a legal guarantee of an ECCE place, the state taking a role in directly providing early learning and childcare, further increases in pay for our early years professionals, and all of this backed by greater levels of state investment. And as leader of the Green Party, I've committed my party to advancing these principles in the next Dáil, and I'd urge all parties, all deputies in this House to do likewise. Thank you, Ken Corley.